Leo had mentioned this in an interview he did for One Battle After Another, and they're like, how did you get in character with this? And he was like, I just watched this video. It was titled The Drunkest Man in History. And he was trying to reach for a can of beer in the convenience store, and he was so drunk. His only goal was to get that can of beer.
They see Stephen Ogg's face and they kind of like, ooh, I'm intrigued. Best performance probably was you out of that.
Welcome back to another episode of the IndieFilm Insider podcast. My name is Jake Rossbell, a writer and director, hosting with Owen Carr, a DP and producer. In this episode, we talked with LA actor Raz Fritz. If Raz sounds familiar, that's because he starred in a myriad of short films like OCD, The Tragic Death of a Frenchman, and In the Valley of the Moon. All of those films were directed by our former guest, Luca Pizzoleo. Make sure to check that episode out as well. We talked about things like what it really takes for an actor to prepare for a role, what it's like living in Los Angeles, and tips and tricks that upcoming actors definitely need to learn about. If you like the content, as always, make sure you like and subscribe. And without any further ado, let's hop into this episode with Raz Fritz. Raz Fritz, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah, of course. So let's just kind of jump right into it. I mean, just tell us about who you are, what you do, and sort of just give us the origin story of Mr. Fritz.
Oh man, Mr. Fritz holds a big name. No, man.
Exactly.
I'm born in France, born in Paris. My mom's French. My dad's from the East Coast, so I was raised there for about 6 years, and I moved to LA when I was 6. Grew up in the Valley my whole life, still here. And the origin, I guess, of my what I do is acting, and I met Luca in middle school, and that's kind of where it all started. We made short films together. I'm sure some people have seen them. Some of them are privated. Some will never be shown ever. But yeah, I met Luca in middle school. We did like films that any like 16-year-old would do, like gun running and gun, and then like we'd do like the effects in like iMovie and stuff. And yeah, later on just started to make our own projects. And I've always loved movies and like filmmaking and acting. I remember I'd like watch like Ice Age and like be able to like reenact a whole scene, and like my family would be like, how the hell do I remember all that stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm so like, I don't know. It's just always something I really love to like sit down and just watch and just get immersed in it and just forget about real life and stuff. And I was also kind of like a nerd growing up, so it was kind of an escape for me. Um, and yeah, met Luca, and we started making films that were actually like we would sit down and write, and we made this film called Gold, which is kind of our first like real passionate project that we were a part of. And later it turned into more like real world building, and we built sets, and then we got actors, and because usually it was just kind of we had our little bubble of people that we would work with, and then we reached out and we'd go on Actors Access and we'd post the sides on there and stuff. And yeah, I've always loved it, and I've always fell in love with it at an early age. And but I usually kind of shied away from like doing theater and stuff. I remember in middle school like watching a theater play and being like, I'd never do that. Like that's not me. And
Yeah.
like later on, I was just like, okay, like I'm kind of falling in love with it. And I took my first acting class when I was like 17, and I was like, okay, this is actually like really fun, and I can like lose myself in something else, in someone else. And yeah, and ever since I've just kind of been on that train, that like hamster wheel of just getting to the next fucking place. So sorry, maybe I can't curse on here, but
No,
No,
you
you
can
can. Yeah.
curse.
Yeah.
okay, cool. Just start cursing like crazy.
Fuck, fuck,
No,
fuck,
but
fuck.
getting on that like wheel of just getting to the next like thing, and been busy in class, and just trying to be a part of better and bigger projects each year, and working with great filmmakers like you guys and Luca and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my background, and just pushing myself as any great artist does. I mean, you guys know how it is, but that's a
Yeah.
little bit about myself. And um, I guess the relationships that I have with Luca and Ryan and all the people that I've been a part of the past 3 years have been really important, and big stepping stones in my life, because LA can get kind of crazy as far as like meeting people and like, oh, let's work on something, and then it never happens. So I'm really grateful to have those relationships. But yeah, that's the core of it pretty much. Is we all kind of started from a little kid having big dreams, and now we're here still trying to achieve them, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah. Well, would you say with you and Luca, because obviously we've had Luca on the show previously,
Uh-huh.
um, would you say that you and him are kind of like, I guess, a package deal, if that makes sense? Like, do you guys kind of like always work on stuff together? Because I know with me and Jake, like we have, like as we're kind of I guess leveling up, we have these like people that we kind of turn to over and over and over again
Right.
for certain roles and stuff. Would you say that's kind of like you and Luca, just kind of like working on everything together as you improve?
Absolutely. And like, especially, I mean, now that I've gotten older, like I feel I have more experience in life, but like, I remember since like 17 years old, Luca and I, we would like write, we did this film called Fly By Night. And that was like kind of the real thing we kind of wrote and like had like dialogue and like a character and a story and this and that. But ever since then, I've always been, as you know, I've been part of the creative process. I've always given notes on the script from the first to like the 20th draft, and given ideas and stuff. But it's definitely been a very much of a collaborative effort between him and I, which is so beautiful because I've done films where I've like just shot them and I never see the final until it's out. And it's kind of strange, but that's the norm of what it usually is. But I've been so used to being like with the creative, and it's beautiful, but the creative side of things, were like with OCD, like I saw the first cut to like the 20th. So like when I first watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible, you know? But it was like without audio, and there was cuts that Luca had thrown in just like really quick. And there was different, I was like, do you have a different take of that? Or what do you think, you know? But yeah, it's definitely been a collaborative process, which I'm super grateful for because it's such an insight into the industry and like what actually goes into the filmmaking of it, you know? And I think from an acting standpoint, you need to learn, obviously, your craft and what you need to bring to the table, but also like what goes behind it is super insightful as far as like character building and like where you're at in the story and where did I come from and where am I going to. So like breaking down a script, and as far as like being in a collaborative world with Luca, like I'm able to kind of see that from like a bird's eye view all the way into like a microscopic lens where I'm like really in detail with the whole script. So definitely a collaborative effort, which I'm super grateful for because I definitely in the future would want to get into writing and directing. Um, and I think it's a good backbone to have for sure, but definitely a package deal. So
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Do you think that's kind of it could be a hindrance though, like just getting all that behind the scenes stuff with the post production and the writing? Like do you think that might be like some like for some actors kind of distracting?
I mean, sometimes, you know, it's funny. It's like it could kind of be not like I'm not going to say discouraging because it's never discouraging because I think there's always stuff to learn from,
Mm.
which is like the opposite. It's like, oh, I can grow on this. But like, even like watching some of the takes, I'm just oh, like, you know, some actors never like to watch themselves. But, you know, with Luca and um, I think for me, it's just a nice way to kind of be aware of it. Um, but then I think it just helps to really understand the story as much as I can and then let it go, you know? Because I think even with like a script or an audition, like I get an audition, the first thing I want to go to is like, who's my character? What do I have to do? Ba-da-da. Instead of like reading it just I try to throw all that stuff away and just reading it for what it is as a whole, as like an audience member. Like
Hmm.
not even attaching myself to it because we can get so like egotistical as artists to be like, how do I see myself in this right away? You know what I mean? Instead of being like, okay, like how can I observe this from a human standpoint and like just purely an audience member to understand where the story lies and how the story needs to be portrayed, then I can dive myself into it as Raz or as the character. But I think there's a lot of pros to answer your question, Jake, with like
Hmm.
if it hinders, but pros and cons to that, but I think mostly there's a lot to learn from if I had to answer your question, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think also the fact that you like are interested in pursuing directing and writing later on. That's also a question I like to ask actors: is like, do you guys write? Because a lot of the times actors they actually do write. They write like whether it's like poems or scripts or whatever it is. So I think for you that makes a lot of sense for that to be really helpful.
Hmm.
Um, what do you envision yourself creating in the future?
I don't, it depends, man. I really like stories like that are grounded in reality. Like a film I watched recently that I loved was After Sun and like
Oh.
Past Lives.
Mhm.
Like
Mm.
those films about relationships and human relationships and what it means to be human. And like, there's nothing fancy about those films. You know, it looks beautiful, it's shot great, but it's all about the relationship between two people. It's like, if I would have to direct something, it would be something like that. Just something really raw that people can connect to. But I'm still so young. I want to write at one point as well, and I do a lot of writing with like my character, story, background and stuff. I try to keep a journal entry of the character, so that I guess that is writing in its own sense, but um, something really relationship driven. And then maybe later in my career, do a big blockbuster action film. I don't know if that'll come soon, but definitely I think something simple that has to do with lots of empathy towards two people, or love, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of jumping off of that kind of train of thought for a second. The obviously the success that you guys the short that you guys have found the most success with is OCD, and you can attribute that to whatever you want, but like I think your performance personally was one of the kind of standout things of that short.
Thanks, man.
I know a lot of people kind of like they see Stephen Ogg's face and they kind of like, oh, I'm intrigued. And I've seen so many people say like, yeah, we went like looked for Stephen Ogg, but the main star of this and the best performance probably was you out of that. Do you think the previous one you guys did was The Tragic Death of a Frenchman? When Jake and I make movies, we take a lot of stuff from the previous movie, like lessons that we've learned, and kind of either structure the next one we make to avoid those or have those in mind heavily. Are there any things that you learned from The Tragic Death of a Frenchman that kind of you integrated into when you acted in OCD?
Oh, man, it's a great question. Yeah, I think what's funny was Frenchman had a lot of improv in it, and I've taken improv classes in the past, but it helped loosen my instrument of being free and not staying so stuck to the lines, because we would do a take or two, and then Luca was like, "Okay, let's do some improv on this," and that really freed up my instrument. But yeah, I guess Frenchman and my character in Frenchman and my character in OCD kind of had similar qualities of that, like neurotic, the tense guy who's just kind of hoping he can step on the next stepping stone without like plummeting to his death, and it's just like on edge constantly. So I guess it kind of carried into that performance, but I guess yeah, to answer your question, is just more so freeing my instrument as far as like improv and really in those tense moments, when we're tense, we try the opposite. It's just like someone who's drunk doesn't try to be drunk, they try to sober up. So it's like in the moments of like in Frenchman, when I'm chaotic, it's like trying to calm down or trying to like, let's figure this out. And same thing in OCD, it's like I got like, this is, you know what I mean? So like overcoming the emotion that I want, that it needs to be played, but like seeing, that's what's interesting, is like someone trying to accomplish something, like what is their goal, and how it's not like it's funny, Leo had mentioned this in an interview he did for One Battle After Another, and they're like, how did you get in character with this? And he was like, I just watched this video of this guy in a beer store, and it was titled The Drunkest Man in History, and he was trying to reach for a can of beer in the convenience store, and he was so drunk, and he couldn't do it, but it was so fascinating. His only goal was to get that can of beer, and that's kind of the thing that I went back to with OCD. It was like the goal was like trying to stay calm and trying to just, you know what I mean? Everything's going to be all right. And like watching you trying to attain that is like the beauty of it, is like their motivation, So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a character that you a type of character that you enjoy playing most?
Type of character. Not really. I like period pieces were fun. Like the In the Valley of the Moon, the film that Luca and I did with Ryan, like that was really cool, because I kind of got like lost in this like world in this era, and Luca did such a good job at building that world with the house and the car and the costumes, and but it felt fun to play that, like, mobster, and but yeah, I guess type of characters, I want to be surprised, I guess. I think that's the funnest part about it, is being surprised at like what I can find in a character. And sometimes the character on the page is so different from like my internal like, understanding of them. And then the more I read it, the script 2 or 3 times, or the more I kind of run the lines, like I find certain nuances in there that I'm like, oh wow, this guy's actually really like this. But yeah, to answer your question, I think like some period pieces are fun because it's like super. You get lost in that world, and who doesn't want to
Yeah.
play like a cool gangster?
Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but I would like to maybe do something like in like medieval times, like Game of Thrones era, or like Lord of the Rings. Like I've always loved those type of like films, and so in those shows. So I feel like playing like even a peasant would be fun, or a knight, whatever they want to cast me as. That would be cool.
Yeah, because I don't know, I love period pieces because like I'm a huge history nerd. I've wanted to make a historical movie for a really long time, but obviously the biggest kind of limiting factor is budget for production design. Like it's just like why would I spend this amount of money making something look like the 70s where I can kind of just use money. Um, but like, we'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys are young. You guys have got all the time in the world.
How involved? I mean, you kind of talked about this a little bit before, but how involved would you say you are as a producer on the films that you guys make?
So as far, I think, the word producer, like there's so much that falls behind it. And I think,
Sure.
Luca's girlfriend, Bridget, was one of the producers on OCD, and she was phenomenal. And, as far as producing, I did help out with some financial stuff with the film, but, yeah, I think I didn't like it wasn't too much in depth with pre-production. I definitely was there as far as like helping like idea wise, and like Luca is my best friend, and I know he values my opinion a lot. So it was a lot of like, what do you think about this? How does this look? Or you know this and that. But we were really grateful to have Bridget on the producing side, and then Ryan, who's the first AD on that, really helped bring the project to life. But nothing crazy. I think. Mostly financial stuff, and just really opinion related, like just
Okay.
advice.
Yeah, because the thing I kind of wanted to ask you about too, I guess if you're not too much on a producer, that's fine. At least maybe for an acting level,
Mhm.
because the two films you made before OCD, um, Frenchman and Valley of the Moon, they were like 27, 30 minutes long each, and then you go over to one that's OCD that's 12 minutes. I'm just curious about like your process when doing Jake and I like to call these short feature films, where they basically have the ideas and the story and the concepts of feature films, but only have like 30-ish minute runtime. How do you kind of like go from doing those long films to kind of shorter, more compact ones?
It's interesting. I think it's there's not much of a difference. I think I guess with Valley and Frenchman, we had a lot more shoot dates because it was like maybe like 10 shoot dates, as
Yeah.
opposed to OCD was maybe 3.5 with me. And It's funny because like Valley and Frenchman actually felt shorter to film, if it
Mm.
makes sense, because I mean more so Valley because it was such a slow pace, like and then towards the end, obviously things kind of get heightened with the shootout, and no spoiler alert, but
Oh no.
um sorry, OCD was so like out of the gates, just like boom, like that, like it felt like the days. Luckily, like I love to be on set, but they were so like high strung, and they felt so long because it was so
Mm.
like the intensity of it was so high all the
Mm.
time that like I was almost like, oh, like when, like not when it were going to be done, but it was just like it was at 10 all the time. So it was just like my body was like, in my mind, it was just not exhausting, but it was a lot to like, that like I was almost like, oh my god, we're only 4 hours in, we got like, you know what I mean? But it was strange to see the difference between the two. But yeah, it wasn't crazy, but I would say like weirdly enough, OCD felt longer, and maybe because I was having a great time too.
Yeah.
That it just like the days felt like so full of just like people creating great stuff. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because my hypothesis was going to be like because of the higher intensity of OCD, then it would feel honestly shorter for me because when we were and we could talk about this in a minute when we were on set for the Big Slick, that was like what, 12, 13-hour day, maybe a little bit longer. It did not feel like that to me at all. It like I if you told me that was an 8-9 hour day, I'd believe you. Um just because, I mean, I guess obviously it's way different for actors than crew members, but like for me it was just like, okay, this is our one day. We have to get it done right. Like today, there's no reshoots, maybe like some establishers or whatever, but it has to be good today, first take. Just kind of the adrenaline of that, just kind of all day, just like running through me. I probably ate like two things that day. It's just kind of how it is when you get on those sets. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah, I was the opposite actually. I think that for me, the Big Slick kind of felt longer than the I Study People production, because
Mm.
that was like 7 days of shooting, and for some reason, because each day was not as long as the Big Slick's like longest day, or I guess Big Slick's one day, but all the shoots for that, I think the maximum was maybe like 8 hours, maybe less than that even. So I don't know. I felt like that day for me kind of felt like multiple days, like just kind of crammed into one. I don't know.
Right.
How did you feel about that, Raz?
Yeah, on Big Slick. No, I mean, you guys were so efficient. Everybody was so lovely. So it was a really great time. But it felt, I would say, leaning towards you, Jake. It felt like pretty quick. And I think because also it was in a one setting place, which I think goes back to my point with OCD. It was all kind of in a convenience store and then there was a flashback scene in my house with Anna. But it was because it was on one location, it kind of felt that way, as opposed to Valley, which was so many different locations. And yeah, I was kind of in the house, but then there was the driving scene with me, and then the scene with my boss, and so that felt like there was so many, so it felt a little longer, but yeah, it was or not longer, but like quicker, because there was kind of more stimulation in different scenes and different settings and stuff, and then OCD was just like in one spot. Um but yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. I can't wait to see what you guys pull out of it.
Yeah, no, I'm still working on the edit right now, so we'll have something. We'll hopefully have something soon for you to watch. I
Yes.
won't gatekeep. Just sort of I guess going to let's go back to I guess we're not going back to this. Let's talk about Los Angeles though.
Uh-huh.
Because we had recently we had an actor, her name's Jasmine, on the show, and she actually was from the Bay Area over here in San Francisco kind of area.
Nice.
And she moved down to LA how long ago, like a year ago, 2 years ago. I think one of those, 1 or 2 years ago, and we talked a lot about just sort of Los Angeles and I guess the differences between that, but you've only really been based as an actor in LA, so how do you navigate that?
Um it's interesting because I'm glad I found my group early on, like Luca and stuff, like, and Ryan, and early on, and it's been amazing because I think you can kind of get lost in the city with the industry and stuff. And like I said, you meet people and like, let's do this, and then it doesn't really, it falls through, and you're just kind of like left empty handed, or but yeah, it's interesting being raised in LA. I feel like I've seen so much of what the city offers, but then I'm surprised by it all.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, I'll get an in-person audition, which is rare. Everything is self-tape now, but when I do get an in-person audition, I'm like, oh, I've never been inside this casting studio. I've never been here. So it does surprise me and keeps me on my toes, and it's such a beautiful city. And But yeah, I think people that move to LA in pursuit of acting, it can kind of get, you know, I don't know. I think people, and it's funny because that's what our film that we did called Gold was about an actor moving to LA to pursue his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't go well for him, and it doesn't attain what he wants. And so, interestingly enough, I've met those people who've moved to LA, and they're like, I'm here to be an actor, and this and that. And I'm like, how's your experience been? Like, it's great, but I thought it would happen quicker, or like, I'm still finding my group, or I'm still trying to find my class that I want to fit in. Acting, there's, I mean, thousands of acting classes in LA, and you have to really find the right one that fits for you, in a good community too. So it's interesting when I talk to those people, but I guess to answer your question, it's important to like be in a good environment with people that you can trust
Yeah.
and that are passionate about it, because it's really rare to find people that are like really in it to be in it, because it's a really cutthroat business, as we all know, and like
Mhm.
you have to really want to be in it, and you have to really love it because there's going to be a lot of no's before yeses. And um, I guess the people that I'm surrounded with really push me to keep going, as well as my like creative like endeavors and my ambitions and goals. But I think finding the right people and sticking with those people are really important. So I would say to those people who are moving to LA, find your people, even if it takes time, but also don't get discouraged with, the whole LA environment,
Right.
that everybody wants to be creative. But then there's beauty in that. Everybody wants to do something creative, just finding your group and the people that you can trust and trust your instincts.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was wondering because over here in Northern California, there's not there's video people. You'll find cinema video people all over the world, but here it's obviously just not as much as LA. LA is kind of the hot spot of that in the world. So I was always wondering if it was just because there's so much more stuff going on down there, if it's like just I guess overwhelming, and there's so much more. There's more actors, there's more directors, there's more people who want to get into film. So I was wondering if that's, do you ever feel like you had to do a lot more to stand out?
Yeah, yes and no. I think like the first like rule I think as an artist is learning and accepting that there's only one of you, depending if you're a writer, director, actor, whatever you want to do, there's only one of you with your brain and your ideas.
Mm.
And yeah, 10 people can look like you or have a similar vibe to you, or, you know, but no one's going to have your thoughts and your ideas. And I think that's what really carries me through this industry. And I think every young artist should keep reminding themselves is that like you are your own person, and there's only one of you, and you have to bring that to the table every time. Like use yourself uniquely and as wholly as you can. But it does kind of get that competitive nature of it, of like, even me when I audition for something and I see who booked it, I'm like, that's who booked it. You know what I mean? But like reminding yourself that like your time will come and your opportunity will come, and always be ready for that opportunity, and stay busy. But LA, I think, because so much stuff is shooting outside of LA now too, like in Canada and in Atlanta and overseas and stuff. So I think it's good to be busy with your own creation and what you kind of want. But like, yeah, like can kind of be a little, you meet so many people, oh, you're an actor too, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it's I'm grateful to be in LA for sure. But everything is self-tape nowadays, so you can kind of live wherever you want too. Like
Mm.
you can live in Texas, or you can live in Oklahoma, or you can live wherever, and unless the production is like LA locals only. But even people will be like, hey, I'm based in LA, and they're in like, Seattle or something.
Yeah, they'll
And they'll like
fly out
fly
or
themselves.
whatever.
They'll fly themselves out because they're like, I want which is like kudos to them. If you have somebody in like New York and you can live with that person, and you could, that's the only, when productions are like, we want LA local hire because we don't want house or whatever. But like, if you have somebody you can stay with, like, I think you need to create those opportunities for you. But, um, yeah, yeah, LA's
Yeah.
great though. I'm super grateful to be here.
Yeah, and then obviously this is a very situational question. Like the answer will be very situational, but there's a lot of discussion nowadays about is LA worth it? Like moving there, between like the globalization of film, or nationalization, I guess rather, and then other hotspots popping up like Austin, like Georgia, still New York, of course. Do you think? No other information. If somebody, either actor or crew, is considering moving to LA, would you push them towards or against it?
I don't know, man. I think it's such a hard question to answer specifically. I think like I don't want to tell anybody to move to LA. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful city, but it's also super expensive. As well as Austin. Like I have family in Austin, and it's very expensive, and there's a lot of production happening in Texas and in the South because it's cheaper to shoot there. But I think, man, you can make it anywhere now. I think like if they like you enough, the production likes you enough. Everything is self-tape nowadays, except if you have a callback, this and that. Like, you can do a Zoom callback. I know those are available unless it's like a really big production. They want a chemistry to read in person. But I guess LA, you can kind of, it wouldn't hurt. Like if you're like in a place not like Atlanta or not like Austin or not like New York or not like Toronto, or Montreal that has these like hot spots of big filmmaking, and maybe I would push to do that. But as an actor, a young actor in LA, I would say 9 times out of 10 my self tapes are or my auditions are self tapes. So you can kind of do it from anywhere you'd like, and then if it does work out, they fly you out. But nonetheless, it's a good experience, I would say, to push people here to just get that lifestyle of like, you know, hustle and bustle. I think it's the closest to New York, if that, you know.
Yeah, and then obviously, like, that was a very difficult question to answer, right?
Yeah,
Like, there's a
like,
million.
don't move to LA.
There's a million things to take into account besides just opportunity cost, right? So
Yeah.
I appreciate the insight you gave, and I know there's no like, yes, you should move right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing we talked about with Jasmine, I think Owen can know where I'm going with this, but we talked a little bit about vertical dramas. I was wondering, have you done any vertical dramas, or like, what is your experience with that, if anything?
So vertical shorts are crazy now, man. They're, I mean, in a good way, they're like popping up everywhere. Like on Actors Access, like I would say, out of the 10 breakdowns I get on like an email, like 8 of them are vertical shorts. But I haven't really had much experience with them, to be honest. I've auditioned for a handful, and what I've auditioned for have been great, and I've been in contact with some casting directors that do vertical shorts, and I've been reached out to, but I've never been on set on one. But I know it's a new wave. I know a lot of people are doing them, and there's a lot of budget behind them. And I know someone told me that they're trying to make some of them SAG. So we'll see how it goes. But I haven't really had my experience with them yet. But
do you want to?
yeah, I think I'm not opposed to it. I think there's a great script lying there somewhere, whether it's vertical or horizontal, you know. And I mean, everything now is that vertical format. So like, that's what everybody's consuming. And I mean, there's a big market for it. Like, I think Drama Box is one of them, and then
Real
what's the other one?
Shorts.
Real Shorts, yeah. And like, if you go on their website, like, it's kind of like a Netflix. Like, you can subscribe and like you get your episode weekly or whatever it is, and they do a great marketing job at that. So I understand why people buy into it, but not opposed to it. Just still trying to find which one speaks to me, you know. But also taking all the opportunities I can, you know.
Would you say, because this is kind of a generalization, kind of not. All of the vertical dramas I've seen, their scripts are just like not good. I could be wrong. Who knows? There might be the next. I don't know who's a good writer. There might be the next great movie out there in vertical format. I don't know. Yeah, sure.
David Fincher in verticals.
Yeah. I'm assuming are you very strict about kind of the projects you take in regards to writing wise? Like, are you, I guess, above doing something just for the money?
No, I don't think so, man. I think, you know, I think every actor can make a bad script work, maybe. I don't know. It's tough because, you know, sure, if you give like De Niro or, you know, Leo or any of the greats like Denzel or Viola Davis, like a bad script or a bad scene, they could make you tear up. But I think as a young actor, I think you need to take every opportunity you can. So I'll stand by that for sure. Because any opportunity to be on set with creatives and that you're getting paid to be there, whether it's $100 or there's $800, whatever the amount is, I think it's an important thing to take. And I know the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman said that it's like anytime you have a opportunity to be in an audition room, somebody paid for that space. You know, even like, I mean, self-tape is different now, but like if you get a Zoom call back, someone is their time is money, and so like they're giving you the time of day to be in that space, and you're getting to practice your instruments, and never take that for granted. So I'm not opposed to doing verticals, and I'm not picky with like, unless it's really bad writing, then I'm kind of, you know, I'll kind of pass on that. But yeah, I definitely want to do something that's going to challenge me as an actor. So
in that case, it's a miracle you agreed to Big Slick.
Ah, no, you guys are great. I had the best time on there.
I knew that was gonna happen.
I had the best. No, you guys are awesome. It was awesome. I'm glad that shot at the end worked out. No spoilers, but I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. Dude, that shot was great. And I'm telling you, we gotta like fucking launch the Northern California branch of like of these vertical dramas.
You guys should. You guys would pop.
I really just want to try one out. Just like mess around with it. just to like see if
Yes.
it works.
They're everywhere now, dude. Like, I mean, most of them are in, but like, I got New York. Like, what did the other day? I was like Atlanta, and another one in Texas the other day, and yeah, man, they're popping all over the radar.
Might be kind of fun, honestly, just get like Zach and Aspen and record like 10 of them in a row and just
Yeah,
like even just like kind of viral bait.
yeah, make them like 30 seconds to a minute each. You know?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll keep you in touch, audience and everyone watching, the millions of people watching this podcast. Do you have a dream director that you would want to work with?
Dream director.
Besides me, of course.
Jake Bell.
There we go.
Dream director, man. That's so tough, dude. It's weirdly enough, like Tarantino would be one because I know he's gonna leave soon. Like, so that would be like get my name. You know what I mean? Like, just. But I know he's working on something. But that's just a given.
Die?
But Chloe Zhao is great. I'm interested to see Hamnet. That's gonna be awesome. But I've loved everything else she's done. I really, really like her work. Chloe Zhao, and then obviously like Scorsese or Fincher. Any of the goats, I love Zodiac. That's one of my favorite movies. But yeah, I know Coleman Domingo's directing a film. I actually auditioned for something of his, and I love him as an actor. So as far as, I guess it's veering off the subject, but I adore that man. So, but yeah, I would say Chloe Zhao, and the other million. So whoever's watching this, if you're a young director,
reach out.
Yeah, you know where to find me.
Yeah. How would you, or I guess if we talk about auditions for a second, how many auditions do you think you do in a week?
It depends, because sometimes it could be really slow, and I've talked to a lot of actors right now, and it is slow. Obviously, with the holidays coming up, it's even slower. But it depends. Commercially, it's been really busy, and I probably get like about 2 or 3 a week. But I find it's funny. Auditions either come in waves, so it's either really, really busy or just nothing. And I'm always talking to actors about this, and I'm like, why can't we not have like a steady like flow of like, one a week, or it's either like three and like they give you three in like that 12-hour marks, like that this and then I'm like, whoa, great, and then you tape one, you're like, all right, I just taped it, and boom, you get another one, which is awesome, but it's like, can we find a balance? But it's never like that. It's always just like constant, which I'd rather have that than nothing. But on a busy week, definitely about 3, I would say at least. On a slow, it could come and go. Sometimes I don't, it could be like 1 or none or whatever. But with that being said, if I'm giving advice to any like young actors who are like struggling with finding auditions, is just stay busy, be in a class like I am. I'm in class Mondays and Thursdays, and so it's important to just keep that instrument working. It's like going to the gym, So when auditions are slow, don't take that and be like, well, I can't work on anything,
Yeah, that's the self-tapes are really fascinating to me because you really only get like a tiny bit of a script, and then you sort of have to interpret what's going on there. How do you approach when you do a self-tape? How do you approach like looking at the script? Because one thing I noticed with you, I mean, this is a thing with, I think a lot of actors try to do this as well, but you were pretty, I mean, I guess you didn't do a self-tape for us, but just in general, what I've seen is they're able to infer a lot of the emotion in the character. So if someone's talking, they're not gonna do it like, they almost do it almost exactly how I imagine, because I feel like I try to keep it as natural and realistic to what I think people would do in those situations. So how do you actually approach that? Because I don't think I, like myself reading a script, would naturally know like where those intonations and all the inflections are when I'm reading those lines.
I think the more you work at it, the more you realize everything on the script is there for you. The writer has written everything that you need to know. Now, if it's like an audition, you get like 2 or 3 pages and like you don't have much else, then you kind of have to fill in that thing for you, that whatever that is gonna fuel, whether that's your moment before, like what happened before, if you're walking into a bar and you're meeting your ex-girlfriend, like what is your moment before? Like what did you do 30 seconds before? Where are you coming from? I think like it's important. Like Uta Hagen said this, which is one of the great actors, acting coaches. She said, like, where are you coming from? What are you doing? And what do you want? Like, those are the three pillars, like, you know, that'll keep you driving. So if I don't have much as far as like on an audition side, I try to like just create my own backstory. But yeah, I think letting go too sometimes, like the more, and it's, I said this earlier, when you get an audition, I'm still trying to like work at this, but like you get an audition and you're like, all right, Roz, like, you're reading for, David or something. And as soon as I get David, the first thing my thing is like, I read it, but like the David, like what I'm auditioning for, like I make sure like I hone into David, who's David, instead of just like letting go and like seeing what the author, or I'm like blanking right now, the writer wrote for you in the script and the sides, because like it's all there for you to digest as an audience member. So not overcomplicating it, because I think a lot of actors, we can do that, be like, what do I have to, what do I, instead of like looking at what the actual scene is, and what's going to be on screen, and then digesting it, and then trying to figure out what are my motivations, what are my intentions, everybody has a different process as an actor. So I think whatever's going to fuel you to create the most authentic and true performance as you can. But like sometimes, like even if it's like, he says that they're, unless the script says that they're mad, the line could be like, I never want to see you again, and like exclamation mark, but it could be like a really regretful, I never want to see you again, So it's finding that, and like, where does that line in the sides? And, I think as much as you can get your character breakdown and digest and look into who that character is, that's going to help you play those lines a lot easier and a lot more wholly and authentically,
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it is very impressive, because usually a script, it's so like bare bones. Like it's not like a novel where it's like the character thinks this and then he remembers his childhood when this happened to him, or it reminded him of the smell of the flowers. So it's very fascinating when I watch an actor on a self tape, or even in person, because a lot of the times, when you start filming a scene, the actor kind of just naturally will go through the scene how you picture it. Which I found myself, like you, Zach, and Aspen were doing quite a bit. So I kind of felt like, I was like, God, I'm sucking as a director right now, because I don't have anything, because like this is just what I pictured, But yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool skill. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of talking to actors who are just starting out in the industry, is there anything, maybe they don't know anyone, because obviously with Jake and I, we kind of have known each other since we started this. With you, you've kind of worked with Luca ever since you started acting. For somebody who doesn't have a kind of person or group that they can kind of grow with, are there any suggestions that you have for them to actually start honing their craft? Like, should they write something and shoot it themselves? Should they like reach out to local groups? Anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's important what you just said, is, man, everybody has a phone nowadays. You can make so much content on you know what I mean? Even like, posting stuff, if it's a self-tape and posting that, or making a short, like you just need two people, someone to hold the camera and then the actor, like that film Tangerine, like that one at Sundance, that was shot on an iPhone. So there's so many opportunities that you can create for yourself. And granted, they had a crew and everything, but still, like, you don't need fancy equipment. But like someone who's by themselves, who doesn't, still navigating, I would say find a community of people that you can lean on, because like there's so many great acting classes, whether it's on Zoom or in person. Like I feel like it's good to be in a community that you can also relate to, because I feel like this industry can be really isolating too. You're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing enough? What should I be doing? Am I doing something wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And then like the more you get to talking to people who are struggling with the same thing, or can give you a good piece of advice, it's really calming, and it's, it's you kind of find that you have your place in this industry. So I would say, yeah, to answer your question, just finding your community. And like there's a lot of classes out there, and either if you can't find a class, people connect to on social media that you can see that are like also struggling or trying to make it themselves. And just, yeah, I think being around people that like, and I've talked about this before, but I want to like kind of echo this, is like being around people that want to do great things and that will push you to your highest self. And like, I think it's always important to like be working and creatively challenging yourself. So if you can't do that yourself, find people that are going to push you to do that. And I think it's always good. Like you can be in a hotel room or be in your room and be locked in your thing. And I think it's important because like discipline in this industry is super, super important. And like having self-discipline with that. But finding your group of people and sticking to that and being open to like, meeting new people, because like it can be isolating and you kind of can feel like you're just doing it on your own. But there's a lot of people out there that are also doing it on their own. And when you're finding that, you can make a teamwork,
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with the idea of trying to get a team together, because besides like me and Owen always collaborating, we also have sort of the same people on the crew as well. Even our actors, we try to reuse them when we can. I do like to. I mean, it's obviously good to work with new people too, so you shouldn't always just stick to the exact same thing every time. But I always found that to be really helpful, and I don't think we would have been able to make nearly as many films as we have been able to make if we didn't have, I guess, that partnership, but then also the people that we surround ourselves with.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I fully agree there.
Absolutely. You have to, you know what I mean? And those people, like, everybody has a job on set, and the easier you can be to work with, the more you're going to get more jobs. Be good at what you're good at to your highest potential, but then also be easy to work with. Like, don't be. There's enough problems on set. Like, we don't want to overcomplicate it if you don't need to. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually something I've kind of interested in too, because obviously this is talking about within the world of cinematographers. When there was a guy I was listening to talking about like how to kind of climb, like work with more people and climb the ladder sort of your career, and the thing that he said is like production and being good with the camera are not as important as the soft people skills that you kind of use within set, because anybody can learn, like especially nowadays, anybody can learn how to make a movie look like a Hollywood movie, but if you're a pain in the ass to work with, they will choose 10% less quality over working with you for 30 days any day of the week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, part of me doesn't know how true that is with acting, because I feel like actors are definitely more, I guess, unique and irreplaceable than cinematographers, because there is less technical stuff involved with that.
Yeah. I think it's important to like realize that like it's a collaborative process at the end of the day, and everybody's trying to do their job and everybody's trying to make something, and you can't do it without everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's and that's what I remind myself as when I step on set. It's like I'm just as important as the gaffer over there. I'm just as important as the person who's doing catering. You know what I mean? Like it's we're all here to like help each other and make great art. So it's like don't have that ego attached. And now if you need your space and your time as an actor, like if you need to be like, I need to step away for 5 minutes. Can I learn to like give yourself that space, if that's, don't be afraid to ask what you want. And yeah, money is every minute on set is important, and it's like, money's burning, but like everybody's there for you to get the best take possible and the best work out of you. So, but don't be arrogant about it. I think it's important to like keep that in mind, and everybody's there to do their best job. So yeah, be easy to work with and be great at what you do,
Yeah, I probably should wrap up soon. But just real quick, a fun question for you.
Yeah.
I already asked you in person, but just have you been recognized for your contributions to OCD or just anything you've done acting wise in public?
Oh yeah, all the time, bro. Every day. It's just too much, bro. It's like
Walking into the street, they're like, "Oh my god, is that Owen from OCD?"
Paparazzi all the time. Yeah, it's actually funny, man, because I'm still so early in my career, but it's the first time it ever happened was I was working at the restaurant I work at. Not gonna say which one. Stalkers.
Knox yourself. Let's go.
But I know what it is.
He knows. Jake's gonna
I'll
help
post
me.
it.
No, but I was working at the door, so outside, and I was letting somebody in. And he goes, "Great job on that short, by the way." And this is like 3 years ago, and I was like, "What?" And he walks in. I go, "Whoa," and he went to go sit at the bar. And then I approached him after when I had some free time. I was like, well, "Which one are you talking about?" I was like, "Oh, that's that '70s film. I was on YouTube or something. You did great." And I was like, oh man. And I remember that was the first time that ever happened to me. And the guy was super casual about it, by the way. It wasn't like, oh my, like he just said, great job on that short, by the way. And I was like, what? And then it happened again with Valley, and this young kid came as well and said the same thing. But OCD even more. There's actually been a couple people now. Happened last week too, at my place of work. It's funny. At my place of work was like, oh man, are you guys that guy from the short with the OCD show? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh man, I loved your acting, blah blah. Blah. And then some girl the same thing. I went to the supermarket the other day. She said the same thing, like, oh I love. So it's nice. It's very like it's not like everything, but it's nice to be recognized for your work.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely it's like, oh man, like there's people that actually like care about this stuff, and it's good. Kind of, it's nice to hear good feedback. You know.
Yeah, it
For
was
sure.
funny because like the only situation that's ever happened with me, which is fucking weird. I was on this, and Jake knows about this too. I was on this like commercial set, like a medium-sized commercial for like a brand that you've heard of, and there was this other team who was doing like social media stuff. We were doing like the TV commercial, YouTube commercial. They were doing like Instagram, TikTok videos, and that team who was doing the other commercial, I was like going back to grab something from one of the trucks, and they would like, hey, are you the one guy who works with Jake Bell? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how
Jake.
the hell do you? They're like, yeah, we follow him on Instagram. Like, excuse me, like what the hell? Because I don't
That's
even remember
awesome.
like the project we were working on actively. But I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, oh, like, I'm such a fan. I'm like,
Yeah,
huh? But
yeah. It's
I
interesting.
guess
Like,
it is kind of weird. Like, definitely weird with crew members, and then it's probably a little bit more common in like LA, right?
yeah,
You
for
probably
sure.
see a bunch of like indie people kind of like
Yeah,
all the time. But if you're in
yeah.
like NorCal in our city where there's like
You're like, what the
60,000
hell?
residents, half of them being college students, it's just like probably infinitely more rare than you
Yeah,
would run into someone who's seen your work.
exactly. And it's like we're still so young, so like we're still developing names, but like somebody who's a big name, they get a lot of times like, yeah, it's me, blah, blah, blah. But like when it throws you off guard, like you're just like, what? Yeah, yeah, you know. But yeah, we got to get NorCal popping a little bit right now.
Yeah,
We will.
we're working on it. Vertical dramas are next, baby.
It's up to you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh man, thanks for having
If
me.
anyone, yeah, of course, if anyone wants to find out just like where your work is, like what, or not your place of work, but like where your acting work and everything you do in the film world, what are your social medias? Where can they find you?
So the address to the restaurant.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Raz Fritz, or my website Raz Fritz. You can just Google me. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, just Raz Fritz. Shoot me a DM if you want to collaborate, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Instagram is the most I use, and then I have TikTok. But yeah, those are my place. And then my email is on my website if you have really important inquiries.
And then what's your home address, just in case people need to get
It's
you?
beep 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 beep. Just blur it out.
What was, and you want to do the actual outro? I forget what our last episode was.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode of Indie Film Insider. If you enjoyed it, the last episode we did, which was 10-ish film mistakes that we have made that you should probably avoid, is on screen right now. So go ahead and check that out, or don't, whatever. It's fine with me either way. But thank you so much for watching this episode of Raz Fritz, and as always, I hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Boom.
Oh yeah.
Nice.